Leave Trevor.
Hello, and welcome to the Producers Guild conversation with the creative team behind Perry Mason. We'd like to thank our friends at HBO for making this event possible. It is my pleasure to introduce our moderator today, Jim Halterman. Jim Halterman grew up collecting TV Guide magazines, so it was only fitting that the Indiana native would wind up covering television, and he joined the iconic magazine in 2016 as its West Coast bureau chief. Besides being a regular moderator for the Paley Center for Media, PGA, SAG-AFTRA Founders Conversation Series, and the various Comic-Cons, Jim is also a member of the Television Critics Association, Critics' Choice Association, and the Writers Guild of America for writing on the original Beverly Hills 90210.
What?
He welcomes your memories of the Brady Bunch, Knots Landing, 30-something, and more. And boy, I have lots of those. Welcome, Jim. Welcome, panelists. Thank you again for being here. And Jim, please take it away.
Wow. Okay, nothing like getting me to blush right off the bat. Hi, everybody. Thanks for being here for the panel to talk about Perry Mason, the HBO series. As you know, the series is based on the detective novels of Erle Stanley Gardner, and it gave us a window into the early life of Perry Mason in 1930s Los Angeles. And among many other things, we immediately see that this is not the same character TV fans remember from the 1950s and 60s CBS series starring Raymond Burr. The first season of the rebooted series aired last year and garnered a Golden Globe nomination for star Matthew Rhys, who is our Perry Mason for the series. The cast also includes John Lithgow, Julia Rylance, Chris Chalk, Shea Wiggum, Gail Rankin, Stephen Root, Lily Taylor, and Tatiana Maslany. So today we're going to talk to the creative team and get digging a little bit deeper into the show, and maybe I'll get some teases for season 2. We'll see. So do a round of just check-ins with everybody. Executive producer and showrunner Ron Fitzgerald. Hey, Ron.
Hi. How are
Executive producer and showrunner Rolin Jones.
Hello.
Executive producer and director Tim Van Patten.
Hey.
Co-executive producer Aida Rogers.
Hello.
And last but not least, Team Downey, Susan Downey and Robert Downey Jr. Ta-da. Hey, everybody. Good to see you all again.
Hello.
So obviously the conversation is going to start at the beginning of this, and I think that's a Team Downey question, where this whole project started and the choices that were made really in the early stages of just getting this off the ground. Can you guys talk to that?
Sure. Yes, I've been looking back on the history of it. Why is it that everything takes 10 years? Why does everything take 10 years?
Well, the good stuff.
Yeah.
You know,
The
it's
good
got to
stuff takes
marinate.
10 years.
Well, it came to us originally as a feature idea, and we played around with that when we had our deal at Warner Brothers. We realized pretty quickly, though, and by quickly I mean like 4 years, that it was just too much to fit into a feature, even a series of features, because we knew that we wanted to kind of focus on a single case, but we really wanted to get inside of it and see how it would blossom out. And so we pivoted to HBO because it was a Warner's deal, and so it, you know, that's all under the Time Warner family. And so it was like, that was the way we were able to do it, and initially conceived it as maybe a limited series, just to see how it was going to go. But more specifically, when it was brought to us, Robert had some very specific ideas. When it was originally brought, they're like, hey, do you want to do it maybe modern day? Just something to reinvent it, right? And I think he had some really smart ways to kind of reintroduce it that were important to him. And
it's no mystery. Once you realize that the Perry you're familiar with isn't really from the time of its origins, you go back and you look at the origins. And I look, the real thing was, once this team broke the origin story of it within that bright and dirty place that LA was in the early 30s, I was like, this is going to be great. Like, I still contend that like Chinatown, Paper Moon, LA Confidential, those are viewing experiences that, when they're executed correctly, they're fantastic. And I thought we had a shot at doing one.
And Robert, when it was a feature idea, were you going to play Perry, or did that ever come up in conversations?
I was just going to play him. I just want to say this for the record, because it's dirty cool to see. Robert, were you going to, well, his schedule, people wind up getting the parts they're supposed to get. I've been on both sides of it. And none of us would be here with you saying, great show, great job, everybody, if Matthew Rhys had not played Perry. So I just want to get that flat out.
Mhm.
I could not have done what he did. He was the man for the job.
Okay.
And
Record
now
has-
I'm going to go have a 40-minute shiatsu while you completely rest at this moment.
The record has been set straight. We're good. So talk about bringing in Ron and Raylan to the show. And
Yeah.
I'm saying the name Rolin. Sorry,
Rolin.
Rolin.
You said nothing right, by the way.
I
It's
know.
Erle Stanley Gardner, not Eric. You said Team Sleazy. You're having a ball, dude, but it doesn't matter.
I think Raylan's an improvement. So I'm gonna for this. I will
Ro-
be.
Yeah. No. Well, once we were over at HBO and we knew we wanted to do it as a series, and like we said, we had sort of basic tenets that we wanted, the time period and characters that we wanted to bring in from the novels, but also from the original, the series people remember and stuff. So we had basic things and a basic concept of like our leads being outsiders taking on a larger system, but we really needed a writer or writers to bring that to life, to figure out the mystery. There was a mystery we were playing with that it just always stopped short of working both in the feature and then in the TV side. So we actually brought Rolin in, who's an LA native, and he and Ron had worked together, and they came and they met with me and Robert at our place down in Venice, our offices at Abbot Kinney when we all used to go to offices, and started pitching out what they would do with it. And there were some adjustments they made to some original ideas, but I actually think it unlocked it in a way that had stalled us out over the years.
Yep.
And they'll speak more to it, but
Plus, they write a great cover letter. Yeah, you hire them, they're going to do a great job. They're going to write a great show. But if I can't get past the cover letter, I can't work with these people.
but by the way, I
A
know,
study should be done just on the cover letters. That's all I'm saying.
but it speaks to tone, which was also a really important element in looking
Yep.
for writers, is that we didn't want to do something in any version of this where it was like a cliche film noir. And so when we brought them in and they do write a great cover letter and there's a sense of humor to it, we knew they were the guys for the job.
So guys, talk to that. Just so you could thinking of your take on this. Where did you start? How did you get to where you sent that amazing cover letter?
Look, that was
Dealing with the cover letter.
yeah, that was a very kind introduction. This is the Producer Guild's award. All we did was make these people's lives totally fucking miserable with everything that we did. So let's be upfront about that. We had no idea what we're doing. I don't know what they, like Susan said, they actually had a lot before we got there, and they had a lot of specific ideas and a lot of places to kind of attack a well-trodden city and a portion, a time of the city that had been cinematically done a lot, and they found pockets for us to kind of attack, and that was super helpful. And I think we kicked around for 3 days, he's a lawyer, how are we going to get him back? And then Ron Fitzgerald was super bored of listening to me, so he's like, let's do an origin story. And what happened before? And then we were off and running. So most of the really great ideas on this show have come from Ron Fitzgerald. So go Ron Fitzgerald.
Yeah, thanks, Raylan. I appreciate it.
Waylon, Mr. Jennings, by the way, ever since you went triple platinum,
It's true. It's a good name.
Yeah.
It's not
We
the
kicked it down for a while before we brought in old Tom Patten, and then to direct. He was a pretty good director. No. I mean, like Ron said, we had that initial meeting. I'll never forget because it was. I definitely recall going in with some trepidation because I was like, Perry Mason. I don't know, man. Raymond Burr. Like, what are you gonna do to that? It's been done. It's there. And then we got in there, and Susan and Robert were both kind of like, we don't want to do that. And I was like, oh, thank God. And like, let's once we started talking 1931, I'm like, I'm in. Like, yeah, that's cool. And then Rolin and I were like, all right, now we got something here. We're not going to do the same old. No one wants to do that. Thank God. And then that's, and then we just started tearing into it and doing our best. But like Rolin said, I mean, it so much happened beyond the script to make this thing what it is. So we did our best, and then we kicked the can down to Tim and Aida. like here, good luck.
Yeah. Figure that out, for crying out loud.
Good luck with that shit.
Oh.
Was Los Angeles always going to be where it would be set? I don't know if that comes from the Gardner books, or is that just a choice?
It's the books. I mean, and then like Susan was saying, Rolin's a native Angelino, so he had that kind of. Well, you can speak to it. I don't need to talk to you.
Rolin here. Yeah, I think reading the books was super refreshing and also kind of daunting, because you knew nobody knows these things from these books anymore. So you have this kind of hurdle to get over. The 1950s show, which was, again, we should say, really, really successful and really terrific and very, and really good. But they were both terrific and daunting in that Erle Stanley Gardner was about telling this mystery and a ripping yarn, and was getting paid by the page. And so, the character, if you read literally the first 8 novels that we read, we had no idea, what his favorite food was. Maybe it was maybe there was like steak and wine or something. It was, we had to figure out how we were going to build this character and be truthful to the book. So we kind of latched onto a little bit of what the city, was mentioned in there, and graphed on some historical stuff that we were interested in. But then we were looking at the little paragraphs from the book where he would pontificate about what he thought the law was all about. And if you really spend some time thinking about that, you would go, okay, well, how did a guy come to think that? And if you just reverse engineer it, if we were building towards that character, how would we get there? And so the book was, there was stuff to mine from it that was cool.
Did you guys have ideas right away what kind of landmarks of Los Angeles you wanted to include? Because things like Angel's Flight and just some of these old buildings downtown and around the city, like they still look amazing. But did you have kind of a bucket list or a wish list that you wanted to make sure you hit for the show?
Well, why don't we talk about the thing we couldn't do, Mexican Dracula? Oh man, remember Mexican Dracula? That was so exciting.
I love Mexican Dracula.
Season three, Mexican Dracula.
I have the pages. We're ready to go, man. I'm ready to go, Mexican Dracula.
The Angel's Flight, it had been used in a couple of movies before. And most recently, like some Bosch book. We weren't aware of that. But we started looking for crimes that we found that might offer 8 episodes worth of story. And there was a particularly horrific crime that we kept being haunted by. And we kind of just moved where that took place onto Angel's Flight, because we just thought we should start off with a set piece, and we wanted to get a really good director. So we're like, we better have a nice set piece right at the beginning. So they got some stuff to do and some candy to get into. And then, then we wrote a bunch of buildings that don't exist anymore or are next to giant monstrosities from the 80s. Again, Producers Guild of America, we made major problems for Aida and Tim and the Team Downey. That's all we did. Problems.
Well, I rewatched some of the episodes, and I wanted to ask about Angel's Flight, because then I looked at the history of it and how, the one we see today is not the original one, I believe. And because I'm sure you guys just moved over. Yeah. But Tim, can you talk to that, or Aida, can you talk to shooting that? And just because I thought it was a beautiful part of the show.
Oddly, that was the most time-consuming thing. Aida will vouch for this. For the countless times we were in traffic going out to Angel's Flight, it was such a challenge. I mean, it was an amazing production. You want challenges, and we met them all happily. But that confounded us forever, because nothing exists around it. Nothing. Just, you're talking about Angel's Flights. There's nothing but that, and then it's a whole city. So we had to set up green screens all over the place, and we went, and it was just epic. And it was barely in the show, really. We had bigger sections, but that was the most challenging one, I would say. Even more challenging than the battlefield in World War I.
Well, and the opening shot, where the man's walking towards the ticket booth in Angel's Flight, that's in a parking lot across catty corner from the base of Angel's Flight. I mean, it's not. Tim and Aida and everybody, like, they totally created it out of nothing. And there's nothing there. It's a building, you know. It's
Yeah, we wouldn't quit on it. We talked about like, you know, like maybe we should do something else, but we
We
just
talked
would
about
not.
building it on a hill, looking for a hill and building a train car and the rail tracks. We talked about so many things.
So how long did that?
Yeah.
So how long did it actually take you to get that sequence, at least what we see in the first episode? Did it take longer than you
I
would think?
think we had to go back and do it in bits when we were downtown. We sort of split it up, if I remember correctly. And we had day work there and night work. So that particular opening was probably pieces over the course of a couple of days.
Okay. And what was important to you? What was important to you guys? Anybody that wants to answer about just the look of the show, because that first episode or two really does set the template for what the show will look like. What were your goals, and what did you want to make sure the show looked like? Anybody that wants to talk to that?
Well, I'm going to jump in and then toss it to Tim, because it was something that was in our minds from jump, how we envisioned it, what we didn't want it to be, kind of more importantly, which was, again, super slick and shiny. We wanted it to be gritty and real and feel like an authentic place. You know, there's a lot of stuff that you see on TV now that's period, things that people really like, but it's highly stylized. You know, you're just really taking in like, oh, cool costumes, great wallpaper. And we didn't want people to think about that stuff. We wanted them to just like dive into this world. And Tim had this phrase he would always say, under the fedora, which is we wanted, you know, to watch the show and feel like you could smell the streets. You could tell these clothes were things that they wore every day. And just having that kind of verisimilitude was so important to the story we were telling and the characters we were creating. And I think Tim was just so on that same page. So as he was putting together, we were all, you know, kind of assembling the team of incredible department heads. That was our North Star, was kind of gritty and real. But maybe Tim, you want to elaborate more on the look?
Yeah, I mean, we didn't want to like do a costume drama and have it be very presentational. You know, I kept referencing Fat City, John Huston's Fat City, which is sort of very visceral and contrasty and rough and ready, and tried to stay with our main characters and see the world basically over their shoulders for the most part. And just in terms of palette, you know, we're just looking for, you know, there was the visual language is sort of compositionally like a little stealing from Edward Hopper spatially, and George Bellows and the American realists of the last turn of the last century. Some of the Great Depression era photography. But you know, once everybody got on board with all of this, the department heads just executed so beautifully. The production team, writing was all there, the cast. It was a pleasure, such a joy to show up every day. And every day it was like 200 extras, 500 extras. You're out in the desert, you're up on a plane, you're at the beach. You know, and it was a joy, and that's really rare. I mean, I never shoot in Los Angeles, really, almost never. I always stay back east and further east than that. And I don't know, driving through the gates of Paramount Studio was pretty cool. I mean, usually working in warehouses, you know.
And you mentioned the casting. I don't think I know the story of Matthew coming to the role. How did you guys land on Matthew, or how did that come about?
Well, you know, it was one of those things where we were talking about names, and it was just all of a sudden 3 of us at once had this idea of what about Matthew Reese? I mean, I wish there was a better story than that, but the truth is we were trying to figure out when, I know Robert said the whole thing about, you know, people get the roles they're supposed to, and I really believe that. Maybe it's because he's like indoctrinated that into my head for the past, you know, 18 years or something. But with Matthew, it was like, we were looking for someone. Robert's schedule didn't align when we were all ready to go. And so we didn't want to lose the opportunity. And, you know, Casey Boys at HBO, someone stuck it in his ear. And at about the same time, we were coming onto that idea as well, and the guys. And so all of a sudden we looked at each other and we're like, what about? And it takes HBO to say yes to that name for it to move forward. And they did. And so it was it was perfect. And then after Matthew, we got Tim very shortly after. We were going. At that point, we got our green light.
And tell me, once you start shooting, you see those first couple days of dailies, and you see what the cast is bringing. Does it change things either in the writer's room or what you guys want to do from a producer standpoint? Or is it like, okay, it's all working?
Well, the first thing that we shot was the Chubby Carmichael trying to messing around with the horses bit. And it was at the same time that we were doing camera tests and costume tests on like Matthew, and I think Chris came in and Juliet, so that was like, he had these horses and these dudes in a horse costume over here, like in horse shit and all that. And then you had like Matthew Reese and these guys over here, like trying on shit. So it was kind of funny to do that. That was the first thing we shot. So I don't know if you can base on that. I mean, I had a great day. I was laughing my ass off the whole fucking day. I thought it was funny as hell. Every time that damn horse kicked him in the butt, I just laughed my ass off. So.
But I will say, and Aida can attest to this, like we were learning a lot as we were going, in that we were still writing as we were shooting. So, whether it's specific to you guys gleaning stuff from the cast and adjusting it, you start to get their voices and their personalities and what they're bringing to screen into their head. And then, some of it too is like, we just kept, again, I just want to praise Aida because we kept throwing like things her way, like, yeah, in a week we need this location, and how about this location? And so we were building it as we went. We didn't for this season have all the scripts before we were shooting, which is always a fun little race to run.
Yeah. And talk about the Dotson case. You touched on a little bit about just looking at that era in Los Angeles. Tell me what was the inspiration for that case, because it was such a compelling case and it really did lead us through the whole season. Can you talk to finding that?
We looked at a bunch of different cases, and actually, just to stay ahead of an audience, we didn't actually stay with one particular case, because then all you'd have to do is Wikipedia and know every move that was coming up. So we kind of grafted. Well, we did that, that one particular kidnapping case with the sewing of the child's eyes, the Lindbergh case. And then then there was a very particular strange case about this cult that kept some bodies on ice for a while, and it began to open up. At least there would be enough twists and turns and things, but it also allowed us to kind of reach into different little alleyways and parts of Los Angeles that and parts of the people in Los Angeles that you wouldn't normally get to see in period dramas like detective stars. So we were just trying to build something that would help the plotting of it, give you enough to go for eight episodes, or at least 5 before we switched into lawyer gear, and then just kind of be able to hit other places in Los Angeles that would have something other than the 80% lily white people that were living in that time in the city.
And what about characters that you either pulled from the books or Della Street's in the series, but then like I believe Tatiana's character is based on a real evangelist, is that correct?
Yeah, Amy Semple McPherson. I mean, based on. Yeah. No copyright violations there. No.
No, there's a lot of Easter eggs, right? We pulled a lot. There's a lot of characters from some of Erle Stanley's other fiction that he was doing. We sort of were, building. For super fans, there's a bunch of characters in there that are sort of built.
If you start digging it, I don't think I have the book right here, but if you look into the stuff you wrote in the detective novel, the magazines at the time, you'll see the name Pete Strickland, you'll see the name E.B. Jonathan. We tried wherever we could to pull names from the canon. Like if you really, really dig, you can find these people. Some of them, not all of them, unfortunately, but we did our best.
We also did a lot of research. We did research prior to the guys coming on board, and kind of handed them a packet of like, this is why LA during this time is so juicy. But in addition, we had this guy, William Deverell, who is at USC, and he's a historian of the time. And so he was also a resource for all of us.
And I want to ask about race in the series, because that's a big part of Chris's character, and it's a nice thread in the show. And Chris was so eloquent talking about it when we did this panel last summer. But can you talk about why you wanted that to be a part of the story? And, it definitely resonated as you're watching these episodes, is that the stuff is going on outside in the world.
Well, I was gonna just say before handing it to the guys, like one of the things that when we had decided to take it on at all as a story to tell, like I had mentioned, we wanted sort of outsiders taking on the system. And one of the ideas that Robert had from jump, I mean, the guys brought it to life. They dug into his home life. They figured kind of, you know, making him the beat cop and what was that going to feel like. But Robert's instinct right off the bat, he's going to hate me for saying, tell us why, but was to examine Paul Drake as a Black man in that time period.
Yeah. I have a question for Aida. Because here's the thing, right? Massively ambitious, and then it starts. And all of a sudden things are changing and writing is changing. I can tell you're not still in a neck brace from the stress of back then. But I want to always talk about we're only as good as the flexibility of the people who have to actually manage the creative process as it's going. And there was so much of that I was hearing from behind the scenes and all that. And I would like to speak to that because I think that's where the real masterful projects happen. It's not just executing a vision, it's being able to build the airplane kind of while it's flying, knowing that you're going to be able to land it. Please help.
Well, I mean, I think it's a huge tribute to everybody on this panel and our entire cast and our entire crew. You know, we had great creative partners to work with, and our production designer John Goldsmith, our costume designer Emma, like they were all phenomenal. You know, our DP David Franco, like phenomenal people, and everybody was able to pivot with us. And then the cast, you know, the cast was incredible. They would come up with ideas, they would read something and they'd be like, this is amazing, but what if we went this direction? And when you have the whole group sort of firing on all cylinders, then I think it makes my job incredibly easy because it's exciting and it's fun, and the challenge is something you want. You know, you want to help and you want to be able to pivot, and it makes it a joy, truly.
We
being
stole
so
2
nice.
years from her life.
Yeah.
Literally whacked off 2 years.
I was gonna say, she's making it sound easy. There was nothing easy about what she accomplished for us. And like I said, throwing shit at her last minute and all of that. So maybe in hindsight, once it turns out really nice, it's like, well, okay, I guess it was worth all of that. But it was tricky. Now in true producer, I'm gonna make sure we do circle back to the question about Paul Drake and about Chris and exploring that world. But I love that Aida deserves so much.
Yeah.
Again, it's the Producers Guild, and like, you know, you have like Tim, a director producer, you have me and Robert who love to, you know, find material and all that, and you have the guys who write it, and we all oversee it during production, but she's got to go like really find, you know, all of those building blocks for us. So I think that's great, but I don't want to not answer that question, the original question in full.
That's okay. Following up on Aida, was there something that you knew you had to do that you just thought, I don't know how I'm going to do this, but then you figured it out? Was there an instance?
I think there were many. I think they happen every day. But you know, again, Angel's Flight, I think, was one of the biggest challenges. The other one that doesn't seem like it would be so crazy was Radiant Assembly, finding Sister Alice's, finding her place. And that we have to thank our location manager. He found the craziest place. Yeah, he found the craziest place that isn't shot, isn't open. Like it's an old, I think it was a Methodist or Baptist church that's closed and is like supposed to be a hotel, but isn't. I mean, it was like a diamond for sure that he uncovered, and that was one of them. But every day, you know, the 1930s LA in 2019 LA it's not obvious to the eye. Back to Chris Chuck.
And well, by the way, whether it was Drake or Lupe, the idea was in Origin, you also want underdog. You want to feel like a team is assembling and they're finding each other because they have this need they don't even know, and the mystery is bringing them together. It's again, I mean, Tim, the way that you were able to craft this so that it played out over these 8 hours. And I know you had to hit all the beats of what makes, you know, makes a season successful. but I was really, really moved by it. And I think the viewership and people's reaction, I've got more calls about how much actors along a big diverse line of thing. We're just like, thank you for doing what everyone's saying they need to do nowadays, but doing it in a way that was just great filmmaking and great storytelling. And it was honestly, I know it's supposed to be a writer's medium, no offense, guys, but I watched him really carry this on his back, because it must have been, I just want to say, I know it must have been, I know it's always stressful, and I know you want to, you know, pull your hair out, you want to hide and all that stuff, but I want to know what kind of attitude did you have to sustain to kind of hold this and help everybody?
You surround yourself with great people, and you can never underestimate the spirit of a crew, because you'll feel it on the screen.
Boy, they were happy.
And it's about the journey, you know, it's really about the journey. And every day, you know, there was a little bloodletting here and there, but we always got past it, and we all worked together beautifully. Creative and production were totally in sync. And, you know, you can't do any of it without trust. And that starts with HBO trusting us.
Yep.
And that's only they, you know, they do it better than anybody. And I've had a lot of experience with them, so I felt great there. I was the last person to, you know, parachute into this situation, and I never felt like the outsider. I felt encouraged and supported, and Aida and her team were like crack. They were just like the best, just a crack unit. And I mean, we did the first 3 days. I mean, she could have shut me down on this crazy idea, but I thought through the battle sequences right out of the gate. Shot one when we went into the big production, you know, after we did that day of tests and stuff. We did the biggest shot that we did in the whole series, first day, first shot. Wow. 5 cameras, VFX, SFX, blood and guts flying all over the place, everything practical in the lens. We barely had any visual. I mean, we did ultimately add a lot of stuff, but we had real stuff flying all over the place. And I just thought it would galvanize the company. And Aida totally supported that. And we shot it right in LA. I mean, I'd rather shoot it in France, frankly. And it was just amazing. You just always felt, you always felt supported. It was just a great experience. And the cast was like, I just had to stay out of the way, honestly.
Wow, that's great. Now, season 2 is coming. What did you guys learn from the whole process you were just talking about, and then thinking about what are we doing next? I don't know where you guys are at as far as that's going, but you know, what did you learn from season 1 that'll help shape what season 2 will be?
More battle scenes, much more battle. A lot of battle scenes. We there's this bit in the Coliseum. It's kind of a gladiator thing, you know. It's like a little, you know.
Writes itself.
I know from doing a lot of part 2s and season 2s the same thing. This went so well. This during the pandemic was our date night. This solidified our unholy matrimony in a way that was so delightful. And at the end of each thing, I go, wow, because I saw all, like you were saying, the bloodletting and the pain, and just even when you're talking about the credits and the fact that the credits were kind of multi-dimensional, and I was like, wow, they did everything right that had to be done right, and they did it in a timely enough fashion to where everything was done when it needed to be aired. And then you don't get that the next time. The next time you have to earn it. And any inflation that might occur from everyone going, didn't we do a great job? It does you not an ounce of good. And I think that I have to learn that time and time again. And while things are in a good spot, it's always that thing too of like, you know, that's the thing to avoid now, is that sense of we got this, because season 2, it's got to be better. If it's not better, we failed.
Yeah.
And that's a tall order, because that's a damn near perfect 8 episodes.
So Ron and Mr. Jones, so what are you guys thinking about for season 2?
Fitz, knock it out.
What are you cooking up, Ron?
Everything, you name it. It's all in there. It's gonna be, no. I mean, I don't want to, you can't divulge too much, but I will say that I 100% agree with everything Robert just said. It's our mandate is to beat season 1. It is a tall order. And that's what we got to do. That's what we're setting out to do. I think we still in our approach to season 1 was Perry Mason, but look outside your window and incorporate that world that you see, the things that are happening today. That is absolutely the mandate in season 2, and to push it further. And we all know there's a ton of shit going on outside the window these days. So, that's what we're doing.
Well, and I also think for season 2, I joked earlier among all the chatter that we want to have, from a producing standpoint, we want to have all 8 episodes in advance of shooting this time. I think it offers a lot. But the other big challenge, which writers are facing, but it's something that's important to us, important to Tim, is you got to bring back the things that people liked, but how do you create things they haven't seen? So what are those other nuggets of California or Los Angeles that we didn't explore in season 1? Where can we go so we're hitting new places and keep it looking fresh?
Yeah.
And a lot of things we covered and sort of done and dusted in season 1. Mason's off of his farm, so where are we going to find Harry living? And is he in Evie's office still? And what are some areas that we can, Paul has a kid now. Is he still living in the same neighborhood, or do we get to spend more time in his neighborhood? So those are some of the starting points of conversation that help story and character, but also from a production standpoint, give us all new challenges and things to bring to life.
It's Mexican Dracula.
Mexican Dracula.
I just want to say,
like it.
I just want to say something too, because just as a relative outsider, and by the way, I am so thrilled to be in the PGA. I mean,
He's new to the PGA.
yeah, it's a big deal. Yeah. I was like, "Why do you need me on that?" She's like, "You're in the PGA." I was like, "You're right. I'm in the PGA. This is huge news to me." What Perry and Pete did in order to hedge the bet against corruption for the outcome of the trial, I think was a beautiful, beautiful, huge swing to take at, wait a minute. And so from the little rumblings that I've heard about season 2, talking about, well, you did not trust the system and you had every reason not to. Now your strength is not diminished and now you are becoming something. So that means you must evolve. You must evolve a moral psychology. But the world is not going to all of a sudden catch up to you. So I think, like the gentlemen and ladies have been saying, the opportunity in season 2 is to continue to reflect on this in a way that is entertaining, and not a morality tale, but an exploration of all those things that I think made Perry so great to begin with. In this new version of him, I mean, the subtleties that Matthew has got me in the palm of his hand, and I can't wait to see what he's up against next, and these are the folks to do it.
Well, outside of my work as a journalist, I'm also a TV fan, and I loved what you guys did. So congratulations to all of you, and I can't wait to see season 2 as a fan. So thanks, and thanks for the great conversation today. And apologies for any mispronunciation.
No, it's better. It's better.
Mr.
I want to know whose phone was going off. Whose phone was going
it was
off?
a computer signaling email came in or
Oh,
something. I don't think it was
Own it.
It's okay. No need
Thanks so much, everybody.
Well,
Bye, guys.
Bye,
Thanks, Cheryl.
guys.
See ya.
Thank you.